Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the HOBY introduction. As you probably can imagine, this is a fairly exciting, relatively new partnership between JCI USA and the Hugh Youth Leadership organization. So, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. I'll be keeping an eye on questions. You can put them up there anytime, or you can always follow up with me after this presentation and webinar as well. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to give all JCI USA members a bit of background on HOBY, more importantly, why we've decided to engage in this partnership, and most specifically, a few options and on-ramps in which you can actually directly get involved with HOBY programs in your given states. So just to kick it off, we'll first talk about kind of the mission and the vision of the organization. So the mission of HOBY is to inspire and develop a global community of youth and volunteers that are dedicated to leadership, service, and innovation. And if you look at both the mission and the vision statement, you'll see a lot of congruence between and synergy between what JCI values and HOBY values. The biggest difference is HOBY is focusing on high school sophomores going into their junior year, where of course here at JCI we're focused on that young professional. And so these folks and frankly many of the staff of HOBY are young professionals, and they make for some amazing volunteers and some really good prospective JCI members as well. So this is an awesome opportunity when you get involved with HOBY to also interact with people that can become fellow JCI brothers and sisters. And again, vision statement here. HOBY is about motivating, empowering young people to make a positive change within a global society, and understanding the cause and effect of actions and how that plays out within leadership. Just a few quick background and facts on HOBY for those that are uninitiated. It's been around for almost 60 years. There is approximately 70 leadership seminars around the United States, and there's over 7,200 U.S. high schools represented at those 70 leadership conferences. Most of those conferences are held in the spring, by the way, generally starting in late March and going through April and May. That's kind of prime time for the leadership seminars. So this is a great time to be reaching out to your local HOBY site. And in general, we have nationally have 4,000 committed HOBY volunteers. So again, there's a lot of prospective JCI members there, and 2/3 of our volunteers are HOBY alum. And just quick background, HOBY started because of Hugh O'Brien, kind of a famous actor. He was most known for being Wyatt Earp back a long time ago. And he was a young guy back in the 50s, had some money, and was really blown away by Albert Schweitzer, the famous German theologian and philosopher. And so Albert Schweitzer said, you should come down to Africa and check out some of these projects I'm working on. And he was working at a particular time in Africa on creating a hospital and some clinics down there to take care of the folks that needed help. And Hugh was just blown away by the experience, just looking around at all the poverty and the needs and all the positive impact that, frankly, Schweitzer's work was having. And as he got on the plane to come back to the U.S., Schweitzer looked at him and said, hey, what are you going to do with this experience? You say you're a changed man. You're a young man that has a lot of energy and funds, frankly, capacity to make an impact. What are you going to do with this? And so what he did is he came back to the United States, and he created HOBY, the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Organization. And he created a fairly sizable, from my understanding, endowment to fund this great organization. And that was back in the late 50s. And here we are several decades later, and we've just seen exponential growth and development from those original seeds that Hugh planted, again, back in the late 50s. So our flagship program, and the one that we're most excited to share with JCI members about, is the State Leadership Seminar. And that, again, happens, as I alluded to earlier, generally in the spring, and it brings high school sophomores going into their junior year all around. And I just want to make a quick comment that HOBY is not an academic conference, okay? it's not one that we don't only go after that 4.0 GPA student. We want a wide variety of students. A lot of times we'll get folks that may be a good student, but they're kind of they might be a bit introverted and just need that little prompt to really bring out their leadership skills. And so our curriculum, which I'll talk about here in a minute, is really designed to get them to see the bigger picture and get them started on a leadership journey that will positively impact them and their respective communities for life. So again, each spring, over 10,000 sophomores from around the country participate in a leadership conference. And the real meat and potatoes of our program is the social change model. That's the curriculum that sort of undergirds the 3 or 4 day seminar that these students are experiencing. And it kind of is built on 3 tiers or 3 levels: personal leadership, group leadership, and then leadership for society. And it's scaffolded. HOBY's done a very thorough job of developing curriculum within that 3 and 4 day space to really create an impactful series of hands-on interactive events that really allow students to see sort of the bigger picture and really hone in on what servant leadership looks like. And again, I think as JCI members, we can all relate to that because, I mean, let's be honest, if you're part of this organization and you're on this call, especially right now, or listening to this down the road, you are probably obviously you're a servant leader and you have a proclivity towards this. And I'm going to give you some hands-on ways that you can really help out HOBY, and hopefully HOBY can help out us as well. So just a little bit more information on that social change model. So we've got sort of 3 tiers, and as you can see from the chart in front of you, they're all interconnected. The arrows work all directions because they're so interconnected. You cannot have one level without the other. Now, it starts with the individual, the person, and what we want to do is raise some consciousness of self. So what is it that they value? A lot of times as a 16-year-old, they may just beginning are in the forefront to understand what makes them tick, what their passion, what they're really going to care about going forward in their life. And we want to make sure that with that passion that they can get some tools to help them commit to action. So it's not just enough to find out what your passion is. Then they have to go back into their community and actually act upon it, create projects, service projects specifically, and frankly, businesses and other nonprofit organizations that make their respective communities a better place to live. And we see this all the time. We have so many success stories of HOBY students that have come out and at very, very, frankly, young ages of 17, 18, create some amazing community service projects and nonprofits. The next level is, again, is sort of group. So working through collaboration, what it means to be part of a team, dealing with controversy in a civil and appropriate manner, and then looking towards group work with the end goal of a common purpose in mind. And then what does it even mean to be a citizen? Something that's very, very needed in today's society. I think we can all agree that global awareness and citizenship is such an innate thing, and HOBY does a great job of exposing these young people to that power, the power of being a active young citizen. So some of the questions we want them to engage with through the social change model. What individual qualities should students look to develop to be a strong a strong young leader? What are some personal qualities that you can bring to the table to help create social action and positive social change? Within the group, what do the students need to look and learn to work effectively in a team environment, and how can they work in a collaborative fashion to actually further the individual development and ultimately social change? And then how does all that roll up into society and create that snowball effect? So again, and then one other program I thought it would be good to touch on today is HOBY's Leadership for Service program. 4.3 million hours of service has been performed by HOBY alum since we started tracking this, and to an economic impact of 103 million, or 103, excuse me, $1 million. And this is work that people are doing because they have such a strong and positive reaction after this 3 or 4 day experience. It's life changing. They go out and they want to make a positive change, much like Hugh did after he spent some time with Albert Schweitzer in Africa. And again, we're working to prepare young people to take on meaningful roles in civic and community leadership. And we're also looking at this from a sustainable standpoint. We don't want HOBY projects just to be a band-aid on a larger social problem. We want to sort of work through this in a sustainable fashion, much in the same regard as the active citizenship framework does for JCI members. We want this to be have a big enough impact that we see some quick momentum, and we don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel 1 year later. So after students go through this leadership seminar, we encourage them to engage in service hours and program participation. And it's all done digitally. They're able to document and print their service hours for college applications, scholarship applications, and internships down the road. Again, sort of really committing to a lifestyle of being a servant leader. So here's one of the most important questions that I get asked a lot is, okay, great. So HOBY is a fantastic program. It's making all this positive change, but how do we get involved, and where is JCI's place in this, within this new partnership that we created last year? Well, there's a few ways. So on this slide, it lists out some ways that you can donate either through your network of people that you know, or just frankly your own from your own abilities. Some ways you can help. So JCI chapters may conduct supply drives to help fulfill like office supplies, because frankly, HOBY is run by volunteers by and large, and so they really rely on donations. So whether it be T-shirts, food, snacks, binders, papers, basic office supplies, those are always in need. JCI chapters can take up a drive and donate like printing services or maybe gift cards to places like Walmart, Target, Office Depot. Again, stuff like that is a very quick and easy way to support HOBY and the work they're doing. But more importantly, service contributions. So maybe you don't have the ability to go out and spend money on office supplies. Well, maybe you have some good graphic design skills, or maybe you're good at administrative work. Again, HOBY being a volunteer-run organization at the state level, it's important that we get as many people with a wide breadth of skill sets to help us keep HOBY going and make it as impactful as we possibly can. As you see on the screen here, there's a link you can fill out to become an official HOBY volunteer. You'll have to go through the process. There is a background check involved, since of course all HOBY volunteers are working with minors. Again, it's very important work. But if your chapter, you individually, are not in a financial position to maybe go get gift cards or office supplies, consider what you're good at, your skill sets and your abilities, and how you might be able to lend a hand to your local HOBY site. Ways to support HOBY beyond those. The most direct way, probably, excuse me, financially, is to help HOBY connect with your local schools in your area based on wherever your chapter is located, and then possibly sponsoring a HOBY ambassador. The cost for the 3 or 4 days is about $395. Which is pretty reasonable considering it's a 4-day event that includes their lodging at the college or wherever or the conference center, depending on where the HOBY seminar is being held, as well as food. So HOBY does run on a very lean budget, much like most JCI chapters, and so any sponsorships are greatly appreciated. And if you have any local connections to school districts, that's also appreciated, especially with principals and guidance counselors, because HOBY thrives best when we have good relationships with local school districts to make sure we get an ambassador from each school in our respective states to our leadership programs. Two other specific ways you can get involved if you don't want to make a weekend-long commitment to be, for example, like a senior staff, or if you don't have the time to again or the funds to sponsor a student. One of the things that I was doing, Iowa HOBY, is we do this program. Part of our program is called a mentor mingle. We have all the HOBY students ahead of time sign up for the top 2 or 3 areas, vocational or industry areas, that they're interested in post high school. So maybe a student might be interested in becoming an attorney or an engineer, etc. And so what we do is we always are looking for good young professionals, aka JCI members, to come in and volunteer for 2.5, 3 hours of time on the Friday night of the seminar, and are willing to engage with the HOBY ambassadors as a mentor. And it's always great when people bring their business cards, etc., and they're willing to sort of keep in touch throughout the next year or so, or beyond, with that HOBY student. We've seen some really great relationships develop between mentors and these high school ambassadors after they do the mentor mingle. The other thing is that every all HOBY seminars do some version or some level of a community service project. That's a very important part of the DNA of HOBY, is again to do hands-on community service. And so, for example, in Iowa this year, we're going to a local lake and we're going to do some cleanup, and then we're going to take the other half of our ambassadors and they're going to go to a food pantry and do some work there for 4 hours on Saturday morning. And so we're always looking for members. So if your JCI chapter is like, hey, we don't have time to create another project. Then there's a couple opportunities right there where it's very easy to just reach out to your local HOBY leadership and say, hey, I would love to find out about your community service project, or if you're creating any mentor programs, and then just have your JCI members plug into those. So if you're looking for good individual development or community-based projects, those are two very specific ways that you can plug in to the work that HOBY's already doing the heavy lifting on and creating those experiences for those students. So if you're looking for where your local HOBY seminar is, the link is embedded in this webinar within the PowerPoint slides. And you can just click on the link and it will give you the local leadership. Or you can always email me. My email contact is going to be in the slide here in just a second, and I can connect you with your local HOBY leadership. If you're looking to establish that relationship, that is one of my primary roles and responsibilities this year, is to help cultivate those relationships at the state and the local level. But if you do, feel free to, again, send an email, and you can CC myself at hoby@jciusa.org. And then Sunshine Shively, her email is also on the slide here. And we will be happy to help facilitate that sort of JCI to HOBY relationship. And see where maybe you guys could partner up and figure out where that relationship makes the most sense to start. Again, I just wanted to spend 20 minutes or so sort of giving you all just a very quick sort of high-level background. The things I just want to recap are that it's not just about sponsoring a student. That's fantastic if your chapter is able to do, but there's also two, if not more, hands-on ways that your JCI members can support HOBY, and vice versa. And I do want to encourage JCI members to look at HOBY as a recruitment and an engagement opportunity for prospective members. Again, as I mentioned, at least in Iowa, and I know many states, most of the HOBY volunteers fall into that young professional category. And so there's not a greater sort of codified way to go into a leadership environment over this 3 or 4 day period and meet like-minded individuals who are servant leaders, who sort of really have the same DNA as JCI does anyway. They just don't know it yet. So it's kind of our job as JCI members to introduce HOBY staff to the JCI brand and how they can plug into all the amazing work that we're doing as JCI USA at the local level. So again, with that, I just again wanted to open up any questions. I know there's a few of you on the line. Feel free to type any questions in now if you have any, or if not, again, you can always reach out to me at hoby@jciusa.org if you have questions afterwards as well. Any questions for the good of the order about HOBY or about how you can get more connected? Okay, well, seeing none, again, I thank you for your time this evening, and hope it was beneficial in terms of learning a little bit more about HOBY and all the wonderful work that this wonderful youth leadership organization is doing around the U.S. and around the globe. You guys have a wonderful night, and hopefully we'll be in touch shortly.